So now I want to ask you a question that we have been given text in this fifth mantra, fifth kandika of all the apara vidya. So why has the text not been given for the para vidya?
Para means the scientific knowledge that humans can build, right? After knowing,
No,
like the
No, para is the beyond.
Para is the Parabrahman, the knowledge of the Brahman, right? So
yeah.
one book cannot explain him. And
So
also
he
Para
could have given a list of books.
Because there are no books.
it
Why
it
are there
has
no
to be an
books?
experience, probably.
Experienced, maybe.
Correct. Correct. You're right. So it is actually a knowledge which, even though it is covered in books, it is that is incomplete only. So for that, you are supposed to find a teacher and learn from the mouth of the teacher. And that is why you have this thing called Upanishad, where Upa means close, Ni means down, and Shad means to sit. So when you sit down close to a teacher and take the knowledge directly from his mouth, then the knowledge which is generated in you is different from a knowledge which will be generated from a book. That is what our seers have always believed in. That is why this Shruti Parampara, in fact, it is called Shruti because you are supposed to hear it from the teacher rather than read it from the book. Unfortunately, we don't have very good teachers today, so but they have left behind good books for us, and like this Mundakopanishad, and we can only now read Mundak. Not too many
Uh,
great teachers to teach us.
Ma'am, isn't that thing also applies to Apara Vidya also? Like, in fact, even science, medicines, everything is need
Yes,
to be.
yes, it does. It does. It does to a large extent. But this knowledge in particular is very much dependent on the existence of a teacher. So there are examples where actually there was either no human teacher present, or there was just minimal interaction with the student with the teacher. For example, the biggest one is Buddha. So Buddha had no great preceptor of his own. He picked up a little from here, little from here, little from here, and then he came out with his own philosophy by meditating upon it. And similarly, the Upanishads also give some stories in which for example, there is a Shishya who is not given knowledge by the preceptor for whatever reason, and then the animals give him the knowledge. So basically, that is showing that the uh, revelation happens to him by means of those animals. So
Nachiketa is also there. Nachiketa.
Nachiketa had
Story of
Yama
the
as the preceptor.
Yama is there. Yama is
Yeah.
there, and then Shvetavaraha and Uddalaka. How we say
Shvetaketu.
this?
Shvetaketu.
Shvetaketu.
Yeah,
Shvetaketu
yeah.
and Uddalaka.
Correct, correct. That is the
They also
preceptor.
say,
Yeah.
What I felt, ma'am, is that the specific distinguishing feature of para should be a self experience of the subject, basically. Because even in apara vidya, lots of things can be demonstrated by some external entity, maybe a teacher through books or some other experiential way. But the para, which is the experience of God or an experience of Atman, is something which can be done only by self. Uh, Definitely, teachers and guru, acharya, and books can help, but the distinguishing feature feels like a self experience. That's where the para
The
is.
experience part you can have only after you know how to get that experience, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
you have the Shravana Chatushte anyway for gaining knowledge, for all kinds of knowledge, including para
Hmm.
knowledge. So that includes, if you remember, Sakshatkaran in the fourth step. That means you have to actually be able to see that thing. So even if you are studying the structure of the atom, you should actually be able to kind of see the structure of the atom. So that part you can say is an experiential thing itself. So that applies to all forms of knowledge. But when knowledge is being transmitted, then obviously experience is something which you can, which the seer can tell only that much to the shishya. It can only be told to a very limited extent. But what can be told is what is so important. And not everything can be told by means of books. As you might have experienced in your daily life also, when a teacher teaches you in the class, it is a completely different experience than if you were just sitting and studying from a book. You gain a lot more from the teacher.
Yeah.
That is why even these new digital formats of learning in which AI, etc., are teaching, they are not always, I would say, though I don't have experience with them, would not be as effective as a real teacher. Anyway, let's leave that topic aside and let's move on. The next, that is the sixth Kandika. Okay. So I will just speak it out. Please speak it out after me. Please unmute yourself. Yattadadreshyam
Yattadrishyam
agrahyam agotram
agrahyamagotram
avarnam chakshushrotram
avarnamachakshutram
tadapanipadam
tadapanipadam
nityam vibhum sarvagatam
Nityam vibhum
sarvagatam
susukshmam tadavyayam
susukshmam tadavyayam
yadbhutayonim
yadbhutayonim
paripashyanti dhiraah
paripashyanti dhiraah.
Paripashyanti dhiram. Okay.
So this gives us the qualities of that akshara who was talked about in the previous one, which says that atapara yaya tadaksharam adhigamyate. So what is that akshara like? So he says, Angira says, yat tad, that which is adreshyam, cannot be seen. Agrahyam, cannot be grasped. Agotram, which has no lineage. Avarnam, which does not have a varn like Brahman, Kshatriya, etc.
Attributes are not there.
A chakshu shrotram, which does not have a chakshu or a shrotra, does not have an eyes or ears. Tad apanipadam, that thing, that akshara is without any hands or feet. Nityam, it is eternal. Vibhum, it is omnipresent. Sarvagatam, it is gone everywhere, which over here means, since Vibhum is already there as eternal, so Sarvagatam means that which knows even your thoughts, even those things which are not under sensory perception, even that is known to him. Sarvagatam. Susukshmam. Whatever is the subtlest thing which we know, it is subtler than that. Tad avyayam. It is indestructible, immutable. Avyaya. Yad bhuta yonim. Bhut are all the beings. So which is the cause of all the beings which we see in this world, all the living things, it is the cause of those. And it is seen present everywhere by the dhiras. Seers are very often called dhir in the Upanishads, etc. Because dhi, first of all, implies great knowledge. And then dhir means that the person who is very brave and steadfast. Steadfastness is actually the most important criterion for a seeker. If you don't stick to the path, then it's very difficult for you, because it is a path which is extremely narrow, and there are so many temptations all around that you could easily slip off that path. Shudasya dhara mishita durataya. It is the razor's edge on which you have to walk. So this is the overall meaning which is there. Now let us get a little bit more into the detail. So adreshyam. This is from drishya only, drish dhatu, which has become dreshya. Adreshyam. It is invisible. By invisible, you have to understand all the senses. So not only is it not visible by the eyes, but you cannot hear it, you cannot taste it, you cannot touch it, and you cannot smell it. Okay, so the five senses are useless to find that God. So if somebody tells you, imagine this, and you are now in the middle of God, there is nothing you can imagine, because it is beyond the scope of the senses. So that is number one, that a seeker has to understand that it is something which I cannot get from my senses. Agrahyam, it cannot be grasped. So these five which I just described, these are called jnanendriya, because they give you knowledge of the external world. Then there is a set of five things which are called karmendriya, by which you perform tasks. So these include the two arms, hands, and 2 feet, and your ability to speak, and then your ability to reproduce, those organs, and your excretory organs. These are the five karmendriyas which are there. So it is, you cannot grasp that God by the hand, that okay, he is invisible, no problem, I'll hold him. So you cannot hold him by any of these karmendriyas. He is beyond these karmendriyas as well. So do not think that you can grasp him by your indriyas. Grasp here meaning, in general, even by jnanendriya or karmendriya. Then agotra, he has no lineage. There is no one God from whom another God originated, from another which another God originated, and so on. So there is no birth and death in that sequence. There is just one God. That's it. Avarnam. There are no multiple gods, and of which some are Brahmanas, some are Kshatriya, some are Vishnu, some are Mahesh. No, none of those. There is only a single God. Then Chakshu Shrotram. He himself does not have any senses by which he senses. So he perceives everything, but he does not need any organ by which to sense things. He does not require any karmendriya as well. So apanipadam again stands for all the karmendriyas. So he does not have any excretory organ by which he passes out some excretion. So he is completely devoid of the karmendriyas as well. Nityam, eternal in time. There is no adi, there is no beginning of God, and there is no end of God. He is just one single God who has always existed and will always exist. Vibhum, the one who pervades everything. So since he is subtler than the subtlest, he pervades the subtlest as well. So there is not an iota of space which is left where he is not there. He is Vibhum. Sarvagatam. If you think that there is some thought which you are having which is transparent to God, that is not so. He can perceive even that. So he is Sarvagatam. Susukshmam is clear, I have told you. Avyayam, immutable, does not change. Till here, I want to stop here before I take Bhuta Yoni. So I want to tell you that this is the nature of God. So this is the Nirakar Brahma. There is no Akar to this Brahma. Never fall into this delusion. I really want to emphasize this over and over again, because I know I am not reaching you somehow. That God has no form. And all these gods which have been created by man, they're all created by man for their own private purposes. Because, I can open a temple here in my garden tomorrow and I will earn crores from it, because people will come and pray and some wish will get completed, and then they will say, yeah, this god is very powerful, must go and pray to him and he will fulfill all my wishes. All of us have some wishes, some things where we feel we need some more help. So there are always people, each and every one wants to pray to some god, and always you can make lots of money on it, and that's why you find that new and new temples keep coming up. So this is Nirakar God. There is also a concept of a Sakar God, okay, which we shall also encounter to some extent in this Upanishad, and I will show you how God can also be seen as Sakar. Also, this is understood as Nirgun Brahma. Nirgun because he doesn't have all these gunas. In particular, guna refers to the Sat, Raja, and Tama, which are the properties of matter. Those properties of matter in particular are called guna sometimes, and he does not have any of those properties of matter. To some extent, for example, even though we are separate from matter, we also acquire those properties. To that extent, we also get the gunas by reflection. But he never gets those gunas. He never enters a body. He never has any contact with matter by which you could implicate the Sattva, Raja, and Tama gunas into him. So therefore, he is Nirguna. Then he is also Saguna. Saguna also, I was telling you that Brahma is Saguna because he's Nyayakari, he's loving, he cares for everybody. All those are gunas which are independent of matter. They are independent of Sattva, Raja, and Tama. And those gunas, dharmas or properties which exist independent of matter, he has those gunas, and there in that context he is Saguna. Is that clear? Ronak
Yes.
has raised his hand, but is this concept clear of Sakar and Nirakara Brahma and Saguna and Nirguna Brahma? All four words are appropriate. They actually describe God.
What is Sakar, Uttara?
Sakar means with form. Sorry. Nirakar means without form. Sakar means with form. And so God is essentially without form, because form comes from matter. The soul also has no form because it is non-material. But but we acquire this body, this form. So we gain a form. He never acquires that form as well. And Sagun, Nirgun is okay. That is, I think, quality is all right. Okay, Ronak, tell me.
Ma'am, I want to understand the difference between Vibhum and Susukshmam. So, primarily, I want to understand what is the concept of Vibhum which doesn't get conveyed in Sarvagatam, Susukshmam, and Nityam. What it essentially it conveys differently.
So, Susukshmam can be independent of itself. So, for example, your atom is subtle, and so it exists in itself, but that does not make it pervasive, right? It is subtle and it is very limited in space. So that is subtlety you can understand is a separate property.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if you look at Vibhum stands for pervasiveness. So it pervades everything. So even in that, you could be relative and you could say that, okay, it pervades all atoms, but it does not pervade space because space is too subtle for it, so it cannot pervade space. So this clarifies that no, it pervades everything. That is why you want to call him in particular Vibhum. Okay, and then you say Sarvagata. Sarvagata actually, by words, it means the same thing, that which is everywhere. But obviously, Gata here, the Gati has three arthas which are there: Jnan, Prapti, and Gaman. So this is also referring to the Jnana part of it, that he also understands things which are beyond everything, which are not, which are left over from all this description. For example, as I told you, your thoughts, which are not covered in any of this. So you might think, okay, he's all pervasive, but so what? He cannot read my thoughts. So this is telling you, no, he is sarvagatam. He knows everything.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
welcome. Then Gauri, you wanted to ask some question? You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Okay. What is the meaning of exactly Bhuta Yonim?
Yeah, I'm
Bhuta
coming.
Yonim.
I'm coming. Yeah. So Bhuta is are beings,
Did. Be.
living things.
Okay.
All living
Yeah,
things
be.
are called Bhuta. Bhuta does also mean non-living things, but here it is referring to only living things. So, if you like, you can even take it as non-living things, but all the commentators have accepted it as only living things. You can, if you like, include non-living things too. So, both these bhutas which are there, he is the karan of that. He is the cause of that. Yoni refers to the cause. So, how is he the cause? For that, we should understand the types of causes which are there. So, there are three types of causes which our ancients have told us. First is the nimitta karan, which is the motivating force, which is called the efficient cause in English. So, that efficient cause decides that such a thing has to be done. It brings together things to get that thing done. Okay, so that is called the nimitta karan. Then you have the material cause, that is the upadan karan, which is actually the material which is transforming into something else. See, these causes come into play when there is a change, when there is a transformation. If something is just sitting like that, there is nothing happening there, so there is no cause required. It is only when something changes that there is a cause which has caused that change. And now we are trying to understand what is that cause which has caused this transformation. And this transformation, it ends in a state which we call an effect. Okay, we could look at intermediate stages as well, but for the time, just for simplicity purposes, we will consider the end stage, which is called effect. So you start with an original state, it transforms and ends in something. So now we are trying to understand what it is which has caused this thing to move into that thing. So now this transformation is firstly caused by something. That something is an impelling force, is just starts the transaction moving, transformation moving. So that is called the nimitta karan, and the thing which itself is transforming, that is called the material cause. I will give you an example so that all these concepts will become clear to you, and then everything else which contributes in a subsidiary form to that transformation is called the samanya karan, or the general cause. So, for example, a very illustrated example is that of a potter, where the potter is making a pot out of clay. So he has this potter's wheel and the stick and so on and so on. And so the potter decides, okay, I will now change this piece of clay, this ball of clay, into a pot. So he is the nimitta karan. If he does not decide to change the clay into the pot, it will not happen. I don't think that this necessarily means that there has to be an animate sankalp behind it. Some living thing only is a soul, or God only can have this kind of a nimit, this thing to it. Even inanimate things can be animit. For example, a comet is drawn towards Jupiter. So that is because of the gravitational force. So the gravitational force is only participating to the extent of attracting the comet towards Jupiter. It is not actually changing itself. It is only attracting. So that becomes the nimitta karan. So any force which is leading to the transformation is the nimitta karan. So the water is the nimitta karan. The clay which is now changing is being changed into the pot. That is the material cause. Yes. And the wheel, the stick, even space and time are called general karanas, that is the samanya karana. Okay. So these are the types of karanas which exist. And so now we are saying that the cause of all living things is God. Okay, so that cause is the nimitta karan. He does not become the living thing. He decides that now I will create living things or even this inanimate things of the universe, and so he is the bhuta yonin. Okay, and because he is the cause of everything, so that is why these learned seers, they are able to see him in everything.
Paripashyanti dhiraha. Dhiraha, the wise people see these things, is it?
Yes. Dhiraha yatad adreshyam agayam etc. 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 paripashyanti.
Got it.
Okay. Any other question is there? No. All right. Let us. We'll just do a quick start on the next one, and we will go into the details next time, and then we'll do a Shanti Path. So just little bit more time we'll take. Yathornanabihi
यथोर्णनाभिः
srijate kranate cha. Please repeat.
सृजते गृह्णते
Drishyate cha.
यथा पृथिव्यामोषधयः सम्भवन्ति
यथा पृथिव्याम् सम्भवन्ति
यथा सतः
यथा
सतः
पुरुषात् केशलोमानि
केशलोमानि
तथाक्षरात्
तथाक्षरात्
सम्भवतीह विश्वम्
सम्भवतीह विश्वम्.
So it says yatha urnanabhihi. Urnanabhihi is a spider. Urna is equal to the Hindi un, and un is wool literally, but any thread can be called an un. And nabi means the center. It is literally means the navel, but also it means the center. So that which has a string in the center, that is a spider, because a spider generates a web with the thread. Srijate granate cha. It creates the web and it can also eat it up. You know that spiders can swallow their own web, right? So it can create the web from inside its own body. It produces a string which it can form into a web, and it can also swallow that same web. Yatha prithivyam oshadayah sambhavanti. And like on the earth, these plants come up. Oshadayah means smaller plants, typically these grains, the dhan, etc.
Herbs. This
Yeah, herbs also, and also these things like grasses, etc. Gehu and chawal, etc. Yatha satah purushat keshalomani. And just like from a living human being, the hair of the longer head, hair of the head and beard, etc. And loam is the small body hair. Those are called rom or loam. Ra and la you will find, and ya and ja, are interchangeable words. Even in Sanskrit, you will find that they often replace each other. So this lom or rom, tatha aksharat sambhavati iha vishwam. Like that, from that akshar, all this is created here, comes out of him from here, and also is taken back in by him at the time of pralay. So kalp has that other meaning of srishti. So the existence, the time when the universe exists, that is called kalp, and the time when the universe is dissolved into its primordial matter, that is called pralay. So during Kalpa, he creates this universe, and during Pralay, he destroys everything. And that Pralay is also a period which is as long as that of the universe. That is what our scriptures tell us, the Vedas tell us, I should say. Okay, so we shall end this here. This I will continue. I have just introduced you to this one. We will continue discussing it. Please do ponder over these things, and do look at the various layers of meaning which are there. It is not as if, just like I asked you this question, why hasn't any grantha been mentioned for para? So there is a reason behind everything. So don't take it for granted.
The sixth khanda that you have introduced today kind of gives why Paravidya is not mentioned anywhere also. Because
Correct.
Aparavidya is something that is materialistic, which you use in this, this world itself. And Paravidya is something beyond material, beyond mind, and beyond all the sensory organs and everything that you have, which cannot be constricted to one book or anything like that. And
Yeah,
it
and
has
which
to
you
be
cannot even
experience.
actually communicate very well. Even as
Yeah.
from a teacher to a student, it is, it says what that the teacher is Ashcharya. It is a fantastic teacher who can teach such a subject, and it is a fantastic student who can gain that knowledge. Because on either side, it is actually mysterious, because
Yeah.
it is beyond our senses. We only understand things which come under the ambit of our senses. So if something falls beyond that, it immediately starts going past us. That is why these gurus are so popular with us, and with popular with people in general, because they create those images, and those images are so attractive. They just pull you in, just like a movie would. It Just like you love movies, so also you love all those meditating Shiva and so on and so forth. They just they appeal to you, and you feel very good looking at them. But the thing is that it is not the correct thing. Just like the story in the movie is fiction, so also all this is fiction only. I really want to tell you that you should be how to discern the truth from the untruth. Please develop this vivek in you. That is most important. When you study these Upanishads, you should imbibe it to the extent that you are able to distinguish that this person is telling me the correct thing or not the correct thing. Otherwise, you are as good as not having studied the Upanishads, because you have not gained anything. You have not understood what Brahma is like. So if somebody can pilau you anything, he can say, ki, oh, look at this on my hand, this mark which is there, this is Brahma. That is what these godmen are telling us, right? This is Brahm, that is Brahm, I am Brahm. Have sex with me, which is typically the ulterior motive behind most of these godmen. So please be very careful. Don't fall for, if I may call it, bullshit, and go for only the correct thing.
Uttara, I want to leave with a question.
Yeah.
Why sage this Angira? Why is he using here very ordinary mundane things, like the hair growing out of your in the body, or the the spider and
So
its web and all,
the top of
or
the
the plant
mind question to
growing?
you is the answer to you is that because it is accessible to you. you will immediately understand. That is why he's telling you. But we will look at the implication of all this also in the next class.
Okay.
Actually, I missed out telling you one more thing. That is the meaning of Mundak. So I just have a few minutes left. Mundak,
Okay.
Mund is the Hindi muna hua. When you cut the hair. So that is called Mundanam. And so the one who does the Mundan is called Mundak. And also the one who has had mundan done can also be called mundak. So this both the meanings are applicable over here, that the sage Angira, he removes, he cuts out all your sins through this treatise, and that is why it is a Mundakopanishad. And the second meaning, the way it applies is that only brahmacharis are taught this vidya, and brahmacharis are typically those with shaven heads. So it is the vidya for brahmacharis, not for ordinary people, not for grihasthis. This is more advanced knowledge. It is para vidya, which is meant for the brahmacharis. We are lucky to have it easily available to us, even though we are brahmacharis, and let us gain whatever we can from it. Now I will quickly share again. So this is the next one. Om Yate Rudra Shiva Tanur
Om Yate Rudra Shiva Tanu
Ghora Papa Kashini
Aghora Papakashini
Tayanastanva Shantamaya
Tayanastanva Shantamaya
Girishanta Vichakashihi
Girishanta Vichakishihi.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om
Shanti Shanti.
Shanti. Thank you, sir.
Dhanyavada.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Dhanyavada, sir.
Namaste.
Namaste.